Hello everyone, and welcome back. Last time on the Bugsnax on a vegan diet challenge run, we completed the majority of the main story, getting every Grumpus back to town while keeping all but 2 of them completely vegan. This time, we'll be completing all of the side quests in the game, helping every character deal with their own personal issues before solving the final mystery and finishing off what's left of the main quest. Before we can get into that though, let me clarify the rules for this run, just in case you forgot. Our goal is to get as many characters as possible through to the end of the game, side quests included, while not feeding them any bug snacks that would break a vegan diet. Since eating bugs would already be not vegan, we're just going to ignore that part of each of these critters and focus only on their snack portion. You can find vegan alternatives for basically any foodstuff under the sun, but it would be kinda boring if I just played the game normally saying everything is based off a vegan alternative. So if the item the Bugsnax is based on is most commonly found in the real world as non-vegan, then it's not vegan in the game either. I made this chart up featuring all the characters in the main game to keep track of their dietary status. Next to each is 2 checkboxes representing the main game and side quests. If a character is unable to make it through one of these on a vegan diet, they'll get a red X and a pink tick if they can make it through. There's also a green circle which we'll use to mark any vegetarians if they come up. I would highly recommend watching part 1 first, but in case you haven't, after the last vid, this is where the checklist is sitting at. We did pretty good, only having 2 grumps break vegan edge. To achieve that though, we did have to use a lot of skips, and since I don't know any way to skip to the end of the side quests, things might not be so easy this time. But we won't know until we try, so can you beat Bugsnax on a vegan diet? Let's start the side quest with one of the first Grumpuses we met, that being Wambus. He's trying to figure out a way to grow Bugsnax, so he asks us to get him 2 of them, a root and a fruit. For the fruit, I just planted a black raspberry I already had, and for the root, I travelled to Flavor Falls and picked up a white rootle. After we talk to Wambus, we need to either leave the area or sleep till a different time to activate the next part of his quest, which is something you'll have to do with most of these side quests. Talk to him again, and he's had no luck so far. He thinks it might be a problem with the soil, and asks us to get a spuddy from the Scorched Gorge. These things will chase you down if you get too close, but they're also not fans of their own kind. Lure too near to each other and they'll get into a fight, causing at least one to be knocked out, making it catchable. Head back to Snacksburg and we'll see that Gramble isn't too fond of the fact that Wambus is shoving Bugsnax into the ground. Once they've finished their spat, offer the spuddy to Wambus, but he declines, saying that he wants us to give it to Filbo, then have us wait to collect his, leavings. Now, Spuddy isn't a meaty snack, but if we look at the design, it clearly has a piece of butter on top, which isn't vegan. It is still vegetarian though. Since we feed this to Filbo, it means that despite not having a side quest of his own, Filbo still can't make it through the side quest vegan, instead just being vegetarian. Give Wambus some of Filbo brand fertilizer and come back to see Triffany trying to reason with him that what he's doing isn't gonna work and saying he should just pack it in, but he's too stubborn to listen. Talk to him and he'll tell us the fertilizer did nothing and that he's struggling to continue. He's not gonna give up just yet though and asks us to get any Bugsnax that burrows underground to help aerate the soil or something. Namely, we need to get him a snack coin, an Inchurrito, and a Sherby. Head to the sizzling sands and down into the buried temple to find the Inchurrito digging around in the sand. Lure them out onto one of the rocks with hot sauce to nab them. Next, Snackcoin is found in the simmering springs, and all we have to do is shoot them out of the air with any sauce. Finally, Sherby is found in the boiling bay and just needs to be lured over to the lava with chocolate sauce to defrost them, and once the flames go out, they're yours for the taking. While burying creatures alive isn't technically breaking a vegan diet, it does feel like it kinda goes against the spirit of veganism, but luckily all of the snacks we just planted dig their way out. Finally, Wambus puts in the towel, taking solace in the fact that he was still able to grow his sauce plants here, and maybe that's good enough. With that, Wambus' story comes to an end, and surprisingly, we were able to keep him vegan here, despite being one of the few required carnivores of the main game. Next up is Gramble, one of the few characters we can get back to town vegan without any skips. He views Bugsnax not as food, but as pets or even family. He's worried that the ones he have might be lonely, and so asks us to collect 6 Bugsnax and donate them through his donation box. Since Gramble isn't going to eat these, it doesn't matter which snacks we give him, so just empty your inventory and collect whatever snacks you find easiest to make up what's left. Doing this will apparently also increase the size of our heart, along with how many Bugsnax we can hold. Is that where we've been storing them? Anyway, with all the new little ones, Gramble decides to start training them, but he's having a little bit of trouble. He asks us to use Sprout, the first Bugsnax he managed to train, to help get the new ones up to speed. We have to lead Charlie through a maze using Sprout as a guide. You'll have to coat Sprout in chocolate sauce first, but the path through the maze is pretty obvious. Do be aware that some of the other Grumpuses will try to interfere. Once done, Gramble is pleased but still a little frustrated with how slow his efforts are going. Wambus and him soon get into a spat, with Wambus ridiculing the fact that Gramble's struggling to train even small snacks and says that if he really loves Bugsnax, he should try and train something bigger. Gramble's irritated by this, but agrees, telling us that bigger snacks might be smarter and thus easier to train. He asks us to get him the biggest Bugsnax we can find, that being a Scoopy Banoopy and a Praying Pincanthus. These snacks are frozen and on fire respectively, so we need to bait them to fire and water to defrost and extinguish them. Once done, a countdown will appear above their heads, and if it reaches 0, they'll then break down into smaller snacks. To avoid this, set up a tripwire and have them tangled up in it to knock them out, making them prime for the catching. Unfortunately, these dudes might be a little more than Gramble can handle, as they just ignore his training and break free. This causes Gramble to lose faith, saying that this must just be what family does, before saying he's going to spend more time with Wiggle. With that, Gramble's quest comes to an end, making him the first Grumpus to make it through the whole game completely vegan. Now let's go talk to Beffica. She asks us to gather some dirt on the other Grumpuses, starting with the one, the only, Wiggle Wigglebottom. We have to wait till midnight, at which point we can very sneakily and with much stealth stalk her to Gramble's shack, where we can see her not so subtly trying to eat some of his Bugsnax. Beffica gets excited about having dirt on the famous Wiggle Wigglebottom, since in her old life she was paparazzi. As a reward, she tells us about snack pods, which are immobile, hard to find snacks that she just loves, and asks us to get her one from near her old cave. Seems a little bit more like an errand than a reward, but fine. The snack pod we get from this is a crispy one, based off a bag of chips. Different flavours and brands of chips are very inconsistent with if they're vegan or not, but the closest matching one to this snack pod in my region are Smith's Originals, which are vegan, so we can feed this to Beffica just fine. After she vores her snacks, she asks us to get dirt on her arch enemy grump, Cromdo. Do some more midnight stealthery to find Cromdo having a rather embarrassing solo dance party, which Beffica is surprised he would hide, as it kind of makes him more likeable, but that doesn't stop her from wanting to use it against him. The next day, Cromdo confronts Beffica, saying everyone's sick of her gossip and soon she'll be all alone again, which she admits is true, but still seems to kind of get to her. She asks if we can get her some grumpy snack pods from the Simmering Springs to help her unwind. With these things, I was very conflicted. They're essentially a bag of jelly lollies, which typically aren't vegan due to containing gelatin. But these ones specifically mention how they look like little grumpuses in their flavour text, and personally, when I think of gummies made to look like little people, I think of Sour Patch Kids, which just so happen to be vegan. Okay, maybe I'm using this as an excuse to buy junk food, leave me alone. This isn't a perfect match though, since nothing mentions them being sour, a defining trait of Sour Patch Kids. This is where my girlfriend observed they were probably based off gummy bears, which aren't vegan since the grumpuses on the snack packaging do kind of look like bears. So for a while, I was kind of stumped with what to do, what these are based on, and whether or not to count them as vegan. Fortunately though, I soon found something that confirmed to me how these should be classed. While searching online, I came across this image on the official Bugsnax Twitter, which appears to be the model for Honey Sauce, which was cut from the game during development, though apparently you can still find this model in some places in the game. To me, this model looked almost identical to the little grumpuses on the Grumpy Snack Pod, and looking at how they transform a grumpus confirms it to me. IRL, we don't typically put honey in jars shaped like a little person. That would be a little weird, but we do make bear-shaped honey pods. So if this model is meant to represent a bear, then I can only assume that the Grumpy Snack Pod are based off gummy bears, and as such are unfortunately vegan, making feeding them to Beffica fail her side quest for the vegan run. Might as well finish her story though. Now, she wants some dirt on Chandler, but when we go to his house at midnight, he says that he's got nothing to hide. Beffica doesn't believe him and thinks that she might be able to get something out of Snorpy. She decides to disguise herself as Chandler to try and get Snorpy to open up to her, so we need to feed her some green Bugsnax. Now, if you want to know if a Bugsnax counts as green, ask yourself, is this snack green? And if the answer is yes, then it's most likely green. For me, I use a Pinkle, 2 green Crabapples, and a green Lolive, all of which are vegan. With this, Beffica's plan goes into motion, but despite Snorpy being fooled by Beffica's disguise without his glasses on, she still doesn't get any info out of him, or at least nothing she didn't already know. Beffica laments about not being able to find out Chandler's secrets before complaining that everyone ends up hating her. I wish I could sympathize with her here, but I mean, girl, maybe don't intentionally go around digging up and spreading people's secrets. Anyway, with that, Beffica's story comes to an end. On to Wiggle now, and she's still seeking out inspiration for her next big song in the form of guzzling as many Bugsnax as she can. Her first request is for a sandopede, which can be found running around in Flavor Falls and easily made catchable with the use of the trip shot. While the sandopede is based off a sandwich, which can easily be a vegan item, this one clearly has some sort of ham or lunch meat on it, meaning that Wiggle has already failed the vegan diet challenge. Kinda feels a bit pointless to even continue with her quest, but we might as well, I guess. Unfortunately, the sandopede doesn't really get the creative juices flowing. She tells us that with her first song, she basically just winged it and made it up on the spot and has no idea how to replicate that. Next, she wants to try a white cheepoof, which only appears at night in the Scorched Gorge and needs to be knocked out of the sky with the trip shot to be caught. Most cheese flavoured things like these aren't going to be vegan, but that doesn't really matter since we've already failed her questline. She tries her best to make up a hit song after eating these, but
Bugsnax on the island in my mouth, so tasty.
yeah, I don't think that's quite it. As a last-ditch effort, she asks for our help seeking out a massive and mysterious Bugsnax in the boiling bay. We follow Wiggle there, and in one last act of desperation, she starts singing to the ocean to try and summon the snack. Who's doing the lighting? Shockingly, this actually works and summons the Mega Mackie. This is one of the legendary Bugsnax, which all kind of act like boss battles. For this one, we need to place the trip shot down and create wires between these poles that shot up along with the Mega Mackie. When they drop out of the sky, all of the mini Mackie making up the body of the Bugsnax will scatter around, and we have to scoop up as many as we can. After a while, the creature will reassemble and change its flight pattern. Continue knocking it out of the sky and collecting its parts, and once all of the mini Mackies have been caught, the Mega Mackie won't be able to reform, making it prime for the catching. Now, an avocado roll this thing ain't, meaning that every snack we fed Wiggle for her side quest breaks vegan edge. Sadly, this still doesn't give Wiggle any inspiration. She mourns over the fact that she'll always be remembered for her only hit, Do the Wiggle, which she doesn't even like, calling it vapid and a waste. When we get back to town, we see Gramble trying to comfort Wiggle, saying that she should just write for herself, but it doesn't seem to help. With that, Wiggle's side quest is done, and is definitely the least vegan one so far. Let's go talk to Triffany now. While on the dig site, she found an old journal recording historical landmarks and Bugsnax of the area and wants to follow in the author's footsteps and asks us to come exploring with her. The first location she wants to visit is in Flavor Falls. We're looking for a large stone grumpus face and a pinkle. Pinkle will hide in its jar if we get too close, but if we place a tripwire down in front of it and lure it into it with some ranch sauce, we can stun it and scoop it up without it being able to hide. All we have to do now is scan the grumpus face in this little cave and feed Triffany the pinkle, and we're done here. For our next expedition, it's out to the boiling bay. This time, we're looking for some buried treasure as well as to feed Triffany a Palatos. The treasure can be found and scanned over in this crashed ship in the water. To get the Palatos, first we need to defrost it in the lava. Once defrosted and then extinguished, a countdown will start for it to break apart. You can either wait for it to break apart to get 2 Palatos, or use the tripwire to score a Palatos Grande, which will work for this quest as well. At first, I thought these were some sort of ice cream, and as such, dairy and therefore non-vegan, but on closer inspection, these are clearly icy poles, which most of the time are just frozen fruit juice. Triff gets upset that she wasn't able to find what she was looking for here either. Turns out, the journal actually belongs to her grandma, who came to Snacktooth years ago and was never seen again, and the whole reason she came here was to find out what became of her. Anyway, there's one last place mentioned in the journal, that being Frosted Peak. If we head to the top of the mountain, we can find an abandoned camp, along with a deceased grumpus. Triff assumes this must be her gran, but on closer inspection is unsure, so we return to Snacksburg to get Floofty's opinion, who confirms that the grumpus isn't related to Triffany. This saddens her since it means no one will ever know what happened to her grandma, and she wonders if she's likely to meet the same fate on the island. Aw, cheer up Triff, at least we were able to get you through the side quest vegan, so I guess be happy for me? Anyway, over to Chandler next. He's trying to remove a stump so he can build a basketball court and needs our help getting stronger to do so. First, he wants some strong Bugsnax to help him bulk up. Specifically, he wants snacks that have both the aggressive and meaty attributes. Now, if you're wondering if Bugsnax with the meaty attribute count as vegan, no. So yeah, unfortunately, Chandler has lost the allure of carnivorism. Sizzling Sands has a pretty high concentration of snacks with these attributes, so that's the best place to go hunting. For me, I got 2 Enchiritos and a praying Pincanthus, both of which I've already explained how to catch. Once we feed these to Chandler, he wants to test out his new strength, so sets up a course where we have to drop weights onto him with the snack grappler. Once complete, Chandler tries to pull out the stump, but he's still too weak. I mean, the guy lifted an entire house, so not really sure how this stump is, well, stumping him, but sure, whatever. Chandler figures that maybe the snacks he's been eating were too small, so asks us to meet him in Flavor Falls to help him track down a massive snack Wambus told him about. Once there, he'll lead us to and enrage a sleeping Mama Miwon, another legendary Bugsnax. This one doesn't really have any interest in attacking us unless we try to trap one of its wee Miwons, in which case it'll charge at the trap to release it. Trap a wee Miwon behind one of the Grumpus statues to get the Mama Miwon to crash into the statue. Quickly switch to the snack grappler to hit the spike on the roof to send it falling into the Mama. After a few hits, it'll open up and come after you. It's faster than us, so it'll inevitably catch up to us, knocking us out. When we wake up, Chandler comes up with a plan to distract the snack while we deal with them. One more hit and the Mama Miwon goes down and can be caught and fed to Chandler. He doesn't feel any different though. He says that he's not good enough to protect Snorpy and doubts if he'll ever be able to remove the stump. When we get back to town though, it turns out Snorpy removed the stump easily with a digger he invented. Well, with Chandler's story done, it only makes sense to do Snorpy's next. He's been keeping track of seismic activity and has noticed it's becoming more frequent and stronger. He believes that a Scoopy Banoopy is to blame, though obviously the Grumpinati is behind the whole plot. He asks us to collect and get rid of them. In his mouth, obviously. Unfortunately, unlike Pelados, this thing is very much based off ice cream, and while coconut milk ice cream is surprisingly common and delicious, most of it is still non-vegan, meaning Snorpy is another failed quest. Snorpy is now worried that the Grumpinati might be planning a counterattack for our efforts, so he set up a few flares to help ward off any snacks that might be sent against us, though we have to light most of them. To do this, we can place the trip shot on a fire, then launch it over to any unlit flare to spread the flame. While doing this, Chandler shows some concern about what we're doing, but Snorpy writes it off. Snorpy next tells us that the seismic activity on the mountain hasn't calmed down, meaning that there must still be a Bugsnax causing it. This time, he joins us on Frosted Peak and leads us into a cave. If we use the fire here to light the mysterious candle poking out of the snow, a Daddy Cakelegs will appear, our next legendary Bugsnax boss battle. We have to use the fire to light the candles on the Cakelegs. In theory, I feel like this is the easiest boss, but I have a lot of trouble actually getting the fires to light, making this probably my least favourite one. Once we light the two flames, the Daddy Cakelegs will lose a layer and disappear, leaving a few baby Cakelegs behind, which we can follow to find the Daddy again. Do this process one more time, and after 3 rounds, Daddy Cakelegs will be out for the count, and we can catch and dispose of it safely, causing the seismic activity to calm. Back in town, Chandler gets upset with Snorpy for keeping him in the dark and putting himself in danger without even asking for his help beforehand. Snorpy wishes he could talk to Chandler, but thinks he won't believe him if he does, and worries that either way Chandler might leave him. This brings Snorpy's quest to an end. Finishing Snorpy's quest will cause him to come and ask us for help investigating seismic readings he's been getting off the coast. This is the start of the Isle of Bugsnax DLC story. I was thinking about doing this as well, but the side quests are already taking some time, so I think I'll leave it for now, though maybe if I'm ever out of videos I'll come back and cover this in a part 3. Let's see what Cromdo's up to now. He's heard that Triff found a map leading to a massive Bugsnax which he figures would be worth a lot of money. He wants us to get a Bugsnax delicious enough that Triffany would be willing to trade the map for it, namely a buffer locust. This thing can be found flying around in sizzling sands, and if we lure it into the water with hot sauce, it'll get knocked out and extinguished by the snack swimming around. This thing is based off a buffalo wing, which is definitely not vegan, which worried me since we'd be giving this to Triffany, one of the few Grumpuses we've been able to keep completely vegan so far. Thankfully though, she doesn't want to take Cromdo up on his deal, calling him a crook. Cromdo's not going to give up though, and he's done playing nice, so he tells us to steal the map when Triffany and Wambus are asleep, and despite a close call, the plan goes off without a hitch. Cromdo insists that once he's made his fortune, he'll pay Triff back for the map, and with that, we're off to find the Bugsnax that's going to make Cromdo a millionaire. First, we need to open up this chest by dropping a pizza cutter down on it. Pick up the Bombino inside and place it onto the cracked rock on top of the pyramid to reveal a launch pad platform. Placing the pad down will summon the final legendary snack, the Mozza Supreme. Lure one of the Bombinos into the water to extinguish it, or wait for the Mozza to put one out with the whirlwind, then grab it and place it onto the launch pad. Wait for the Mozza Supreme to stay in one spot and launch the Bombino to knock it out of the sky. Before the Mozza can get back up, drop a pizza cutter down on it to do some damage. After 2 hits, it'll protect itself from any launched bombs, so instead chuck them straight into the whirlwind to knock it down and deal the final hit. Feed the mozza to Cromdo, which I don't know how he plans to sell it from inside his stomach, but sure thing. Sadly, the mozza is clearly a pepperoni pizza, and even if it wasn't, the cheese would still make it a non-vegan item. Back in town, turns out Beffica took some pictures of Cromdo stealing the map from Triffany and is blackmailing him for a cut of the loot, which he presumably regurgitates into her hands. Cromdo tells us he wishes he didn't have to act like a scumbag, but it's the only way he'll ever have a chance of making it in the world. And with that, Cromdo's quest is over. Floofty's turn now. Their next test is on the regenerative properties of Bugsnax, which they plan to test by cutting their head off and see if they can regrow it by consuming snacks. Due to how, bonkers this idea is, we convince them to at least let us try and get some volunteers for less drastic experiments. Unfortunately though, no one really trusts or likes Floofty, especially when it comes to their experiments, so without any volunteers, Floofy sticks to their original plan. Before we can get on with the experiment though, Floofty asks us to feed them enough snacks to fully transform themselves. It doesn't matter what snacks we use for this, so just collect a bunch of fruit and veg to keep things above board. After we feed Floofty, the experiment can begin. We have to load a Bugsnax into Floofty's machine, so make sure you have a spare vegan snack for this. Before Floofty can go through with cutting off their head, Snorpy comes in to stop things, saying this is being insane. Despite still believing in their work, they can't write off Snorpy's concerns since they know he's intelligent, so decides to hold off for now and thinks of their behaviour. Since Floofty never asked for a specific snack, they can actually get through their entire questline, veganity intact. On to our final side quest now, that being Shelda's. She's got a bit of a bone to pick with us since we keep feeding people Bugsnax, or as she puts it, we're spreading the toxin. She offers us a chance to change our ways by revealing the Box of Purity. Any Bugsnax we place inside will be purged. We start off by offering any Bugsnax we want to it, and since it's being destroyed and not eaten, just offer any old snacks you want. Next, she asks for some specific snacks to be offered: a green peel bug, cheeser, and inch wrap. Green peel bug can be found in these holes in Scorched Gorge. Set your snack trap at one end and send Sprout through the other. When Sprout pushes the peel bug out, set the trap off to score it. The inch wrap can be found in the small cave we visited in Triffany's story. Lure it with some ranch onto a rock to pop out of the ground and then straight into the snack trap. Cheeseor is in Sizzling Sands and just needs to be tripped up with the trip shot. Now, Cheeseor isn't vegan, so it's a good thing that Shelda's going to purify this one for us so that no one can even think of eating it. Next, we need to bring 3 more snacks to the box: Palatos, Sprinklepeed, and Flapjackerack. I've already explained how to get a Palatos, so I won't bother doing that again. Sprinklepeed and Flapjackerack can be found in Sugar Pine Woods and Sizzling Sands respectively, and both just need to be tripped up. Flapjackerack would at least be vegetarian, but the bacon legs mean that it's not even that, so it's a good thing that someone as pure and holy as Shelda is gonna... Okay, yeah, so Shelda might not be as pure as she claims. Even though it's not us feeding her these snacks, it still clearly counts as breaking vegan edge. Shelda finally admits that she's a fraud and tells us that she really does believe what she's saying, but she wasn't strong enough to follow her own teachings. And that brings us to the end of the side quests. As I suspected, this has put a pretty big hole in the vegan challenge. Most of the grumps require some sort of non-vegan snack to have their request fulfilled. At least we were able to complete the main story, keeping them all vegan. Oh wait, we still haven't completed the main quest. Well, I guess let's get on to that. If we talk to Filbo, he wants to throw a big party to celebrate everyone being back in town. At the party though, no one seems to really be feeling it, so Filbo asks us to get everyone on the dance floor. If we talk to Beth, she says that the music isn't really her thing, which we can easily fix by just changing the song around. Wiggle says she's more of a singer than a dancer, and her throat's a little dry, so take a drink from Cromdo and give it to her to loosen up her larynx, and she'll make her way to the dance floor. Gramble wants to go over, but he needs to guard his snacks from Wambus. If we talk to Wambus, he actually wants to apologise to Gramble for how he's treated him, but can't muster up the nerve, so grab some liquid courage from Cromdo and give it to him, and he'll make his way to Gramble to apologise. Gramble forgives him, and the two of them bust a move. Triffany says that she'd rather talk about history than dance, which we'll pass on for now. Shelda says some mumbo jumbo, but she just wants us to chuck a cup at the orb above her head, which convinces her to go to the dance floor for some reason, and with all of his drinks handed out, Cromdo heads over too. Chandler doesn't want to go without Snorpy, but Snorpy's being held hostage by Floofty, who wants to talk all educated like with him, and has no interest in dancing. You know who'd enjoy this conversation? Triffany. Get her to come to talk to Floofty about dance throughout history, which will convince Floofty of its historical value and make them want to try it with Triffany. With that, Snorpy can go talk to Chandler. Snorpy asks him if he wants to date, which confuses Chandler since they've been dating for years according to him. Turns out Snorpy didn't even realise, and so with both of them now on the same page, they decide to go dance. With that, we can go talk to Filbo, who's looking out over everyone having a good time. Seems like everything's going well.
Our end end is nigh.
What? End? Well, is that a metaphor, or...? Gotta move! Now!
Oh, looks like I spoke too soon. Snaxburg is almost completely totaled, and the volcano seems like it's about to erupt, and all of our food has escaped. Despite the chaos, Filbo manages to hold things together until Eggabell shows up to tell us that she's figured out a way to get through the big door in Frosted Peak. While we go with Filbo and Eggabell, everyone else works on fortifying the town in case of any nasty snacks showing up, and try to get the airship we came here on functional again so we can escape the island before it swallows us up. With that, we head back to the giant door. Turns out Liz just wrote the code down backwards. We put in the right code and the door begins to open, and while we walk through it to the other side, the ground gives way beneath us, leading us to the Undersnacks. Totally for the first time ever. This place is genuinely kind of terrifying. It's like a maze made up of various different snacks and a weird liquid pooling around our feet. Almost feels like we're walking through a giant's intestines. A little way through, we find Filbo being attacked by a weird monstrous amalgamation of snacks that falls apart when we get close. There's no sign of Egg, so we continue on, hoping she's okay. Eventually, we come to a hall-like area filled with Bugsnax, and at the end, we find Liz, or at least what's become of her. She insists there's no time for a reunion and that we need to get off the island as fast as we can with everyone, but that she can't come with us. We came all this way for an interview though, and we're not leaving until we get the full story. Eventually, Lisbeth gives in, telling us to make it quick. Turns out, Bugsnax are actually a type of parasite that disguise themselves as tasty food to get inside and start changing you until eventually you just become more Bugsnax. Turns out the cavern we're standing in now is made up of all the explorers who came to Snacktooth before us, all turned into snacks. This is a kid's game, I remind you. When Liz fell down here, she was swarmed by Bugsnax that forced their way into her stomach trying to take control of her, but her willpower was strong enough to not only maintain herself, but to take power back. Ever since then, she's been trying to get us to leave while literally holding the island together to give us as much time as we can, which it seems like we're out of. Just then, Eggabell falls from the sky and tries to convince Liz to leave, but she can't, or else the island will immediately collapse, so instead, Eggabell decides to join Liz and help her keep things together. Filbo doubts his ability to get everyone off the island, but Liz tells him he can do it before they send us flying out of the Undersnacks. When we get back to Snaxburg, we find the place being overrun by snacks. The airship still needs some work, so Snorpy upgrades our tools to make them slightly more deadly, and we need to help everyone survive long enough to make an escape. The grumps here still can eat snacks if we're not careful, so we need to be on our A-game while defending them. Luckily, since we've completed everyone's side quest and fed them the bare minimum number of snacks, their will to fend off the parasites is high enough that they'll more likely choose to attack any snacks they get close enough rather than eating them, making this slightly easier. If they do eat a snack, you can always exit the game and reload, which will send you back to the start of the segment. Once everyone has been rescued and is on the airship, we take off. The snacks aren't going to give up that easy though, and it looks like we might have met our match when Liz and Egg come out and save the day, letting us finally escape the island. Now safe and sound back on the mainland, we can talk to everyone one last time to see how they've all grown and changed from this experience, putting their troubles behind them to move on into the future. And with that, the Bugsnax on a vegan diet challenge comes to a close. Since we were able to avoid anyone eating any snacks in the final segment, our checklist remains unchanged from after the side quest. Despite almost everyone being able to make it through the main story vegan, most Grumpuses stumbled during the side content, with only Gramble and Triffany being able to make it through both. Surprisingly though, Wampus and Floofty, the two who failed during the main quest, both managed to get through their side quest completely vegan. Only 2 Vegos though, which is honestly kind of surprising. I was expecting there to be more of them. If you want to try this run, or heck even just play this game, I would highly recommend it, as there's not really any other game out there like it. If you have any ideas on ways to maybe keep more of the Grumps on the path of veganism, then why not tell me in the comments, and while you're down there, why not consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed. I want to try doing more runs other than just Crash and Spyro, so I hope anyone who stumbled on this enjoyed it, though the next run is going to be back to Spyro. But until then, I've been Katie Cat, and thank you for watching.